Okay, so cross my heart. Your girl thought she was signing up for a sad girl healing type romance type B, but baby, this turned into schmurder, identity theft, two Rosies, and a woman with a whole gun. So let's get into it. So keep in mind that the book starts off with a heart transplant and a lie. Our main character, Rosie, gets a new heart. Yay! Health, right? No. No. Homegirl is bored and spiraling. So she finds her donor's hot, sad, semi-famous writer husband, Morgan. And man, the Delulu was hitting real early. But plot twist, there's also another Rosie in the picture. Okay, so now Morgan is catching feelings for email Rosie, and he's also been meeting with another Rosie in person. I'm talking homeboy is in a whole situationship and doesn't even know it yet. Now, sir, this is not Love Actually. This is about to become a whole Dateline episode. Okay, so now Morgan ends up, and email Rosie is the one to find the body. She calls the cops. Pink hair is found on the body, and guess who has pink hair? Our girl Rosie. Guess who's now a suspect? Our girl Rosie. So now she's trying to convince the cops that she's like, it wasn't me. And the cops are like, are you sure? Because, baby, the wig is wigging. So now fast forward a little bit further. One night, Rosie decides to go ahead and take some sleep meds and go to sleep, right? Because homegirl ain't been sleeping since the finding the body. But mind you, I probably wouldn't be able to sleep either. So I get you, Rosie. So as I said, one night she took sleep meds. Anyway, she wakes up fully in her wedding dress. Yep, wedding dress on, fully buttoned up in the back and everything. Keys in the front door. Door unlocked and open. Straight up out of a freaking horror film right now. She ends up calling a family friend to her apartment to help her get out of the dress. Then the very next night, yes, the very next night, somebody breaks into Rosie's apartment, freaking slashes up her arm. They're fighting, almost chokes her out. Then her homegirl Edith shows up. So now Edith, we meet her in the beginning of the book. This is like somebody who comes into Rosie's like wedding shop and is like having a complete mental breakdown due to the factor that her and her ex had just broken up and she needed to return her dress. Her and Rosie end up like becoming friends and bonding at the fact that, you know, they both went through heartache and stuff. So this is how we met Edith. But anyway, as I was saying, Edith shows up to the apartment. She's like, hey girl, you rang? And Rosie's like, no, I didn't. Why are you here? So then we end up learning that it was Edith who was pretending to be Rosie. Homegirl dyed her hair, met up with Morgan in person, the one who was getting intimate with him and so forth. And her reasoning for doing it is because she said that Rosie was like a confident, outgoing, fully aware of herself type person. Which is kind of funny because that's not the Rosie that we're reading about in this book. Rosie is like the human voice note of never mind, forget I said anything. Now that we know it was Edith who was pretending to be Rosie, we're like, hey homegirls, you the one who killed Morgan? Like, no. This plot thickens even more. Rosie ends up linking up with Morgan's ride or die bestie, Blair. They start assuming that it was freaking Edith's friend, Piper, who had something to do with Morgan's, you know. As I said, they ended up linking up at Blair's house to go over a plan and how they were going to go ahead and confront Piper. But then Rosie catches Blair in a lie, like straight up lying. Now this is when the story does a complete backflip. Remember when I told you in the beginning that it starts off with our main character Rosie getting a heart transplant? Well, it was Morgan's wife, Daphne, whose heart that she has. Blair and Morgan used to date back in college. But all these years later, Blair is still like in love with Morgan. I'm talking about love. Talking about, I love you, daddy. I'll kill for you, daddy. I'll do anything for you, daddy type love. Anyway, she ends up confessing to Rosie that she ends up sneaking into Morgan and Daphne's house one night because she was trying to figure out what Daphne, like soaps, perfumes, whatever it is that she was using that had Morgan so sprung. But Daphne caught her. They get into a little tussle, a little back and forth, and bam! Altercation happens. Daphne pushes Blair pushes her back, and what's her name hits her head on the vanity and bleeds out. But she was assuming that Morgan was, or when I'm saying she, uh, Blair was assuming that Morgan was going to come and check in on Daphne, but homeboy didn't come check on her for a whole 45 minutes. And so now Blair's like, okay, so I gave you this whole confession, Rosie. Now I guess I gotta, you too. So now she pulls out a pew pew and starts monologuing like a whole Bond villain. Okay, so now Blair is confessing that she, Morgan, because she showed up to his house that night and saw him making out with the other Rosie, which we now know is Edith, because she confessed her love to him, and he was like, girl, we not that. Like, what we had back in the day was puppy love. So Blair felt offended at Morgan. And now she's trying to pin the whole thing on Rosie. And so Rosie's like, no, I didn't just survive a freaking open heart surgery, an attack in my own damn house, identity theft, losing the almost love of my life for me to go out like this. So homegirl does fight back, but Blair does get the upper hand. Boom, police, sirens, lights, all that outside. And guess who also shows up? Rosie's best friend Nina, the best friend who also, right before the attack and everything, at the house, you know, when Rosie got slashed up and stuff, had texted her and said that she needed a break from her. But anyway, she ends up telling Rosie, she was like, yeah, I ended up checking your location. I saw that you wasn't at home, and after hearing about the attack, I kind of got nervous, so I ended up checking your location, and then I saw you were somewhere that I didn't know, so I ended up pulling up because I wanted to make sure you were okay. And then when I saw out the window that homegirl had a at you, I was like, oh no. So homegirl was like, I called the cops. And fast forward, Blair's caught, Rosie's alive, Edith's apologizing over dinner. Rosie doesn't hate her anymore. She actually understands her, that she was just broken and lonely and she needed someone. But our girl Rosie finally found herself in all of this mess. She's the girl that survived this all and lived. Final thoughts, I'd say that this book, it gave me romance, trauma, murder, identity theft, gaslighting, emotional damage, two Rosies, and still somehow it all still made sense. It did definitely start off slow, but once it got hot, it did not fizzle out. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. And Morgan, next time, just don't go entertaining two women, okay? This won't end like a Dateline. Oh, actually 3 women. This won't end like a Dateline episode for you after that. Now, what book should I spoil next?